Hey, But Dragons. As you know, I am a huge fan of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. You can see, the books up here on my bookshelf, prominently displayed. I'm a huge fan. Yes, I know I'm missing one of the books, but I'm trying to find it in hardcover to match the set, so that will be coming. But I am a huge fan of that, and I'm also a huge fan of the show. Yes, the last couple of seasons were kind of lackluster, but I still enjoyed them overall, and I've been enjoying House of the Dragon and so forth. So, I was on Facebook a few weeks back, and Mark Lawrence posted an article in one of the groups I'm in, and it was titled 7 Fantasy Books Better Than Game of Thrones That Need Adaptations. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, better than Game of Thrones? Really? No, I highly doubt that, Mark. But okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to read you like one snippet from the article, and then we're going to take a look at the list of books that they are saying are better than Game of Thrones that need adaptations, okay? Now, I have to make this clear. Mark Lawrence did not write this article. He just happened to show up in the article, and so that's why he shared it, okay? So it says, George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones adaptation was game-changing television when it premiered on HBO back in April 2011. That is true. For the first time, a beloved series of fantasy novels came to life in ways that even non-fantasy fans could get behind. Since then, Tolkien's work has followed suit with Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. I don't know as I'd call that following suit, but okay. And Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, again, whatever, while HBO continued the Martin trend with House of the Dragon. There we go. There's a whole world of fantasy epics out there waiting for adaptation, and several of them would be hits even bigger than Game of Thrones. Okay, guys, we're going to look at this list of books that would make adaptations even bigger than Game of Thrones, apparently. All right, and the first one, which is why Mark shared the article, is this headline: The Broken Empire would put Game of Thrones to shame. I don't know how many of you have read The Broken Empire by Mark Lawrence. I DNF'd Prince of Thorns 50% through. I absolutely despised Jorg, or however he pronounces it. And it definitely was not on the level of Game of Thrones for me. I mean, yeah, full of despicable characters, and A Song of Ice and Fire has plenty of despicable characters, but the writing was not nearly as good. I didn't really care that much for the story or the plot either, so, I mean, I know a lot of people love the Broken Empire series, but I don't know as I would say it would put Game of Thrones to shame. Maybe it would. I don't know. In terms of a television show, maybe it would. Who knows? But I certainly hope that the adaptation was better than my experience with the book. So let's move on to the next one here. And the next one says, Robin Hobb's The Farseer Trilogy is as dark and gritty as Game of Thrones. Okay, now, I am a huge fan of Robin Hobb. I love the Farseer Trilogy. I love the Realm of the Elderlings as a whole. I will always talk up Robin Hobb. And yes, it has very dark and gritty moments. I wouldn't say it's as dark and gritty as Game of Thrones, but whatever. I do think it would make an excellent adaptation. I think that Robin Hobb holds her baby really close to her chest, and I don't know if she's ever going to allow an adaptation, because she's probably seen what some adaptations have done to really popular works, and I don't know if she's ever going to let go of it. But if we ever did get an adaptation of it that was worthwhile, I would absolutely love that. That would be amazing It is dark and gritty. That there's a lot of deep character exploration, just like with Game of Thrones. I don't know as it's as dark and gritty as Game of Thrones, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because I love this series so much. And I almost love it just as much as A Song of Ice and Fire. So, I'll let this one slide. All right, so we are moving on, and we're going to talk about the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. And it says the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin would come alive gloriously on screen. That is true. I really, really enjoyed the Broken Earth trilogy. It is just fantastic. I highly recommend it to anyone to at least try. Some of the writing conventions in the series will throw you off a bit, at least at the beginning, but you do get used to it. And there's a reason behind it. So I definitely recommend reading it. I do think it would make a glorious adaptation, as this article says. I wouldn't say it's better than Game of Thrones, though. I really wouldn't. I love it, but I wouldn't even compare it to Game of Thrones, to be perfectly honest. It's just a completely different story. So, yeah, it's really, really good. But I wouldn't say it's better than Game of Thrones. All right, so we are moving on to the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. The Stormlight Archives are a Brandon Sanderson masterwork. Okay, so for one thing, it's not better than Game of Thrones. Far from it. I mean far from it. I don't think it will ever reach the level of A Song of Ice and Fire for me. I just don't. Would it make a cool adaptation? Yes. If they did it right and Brandon was involved, I think it would make a quality adaptation. But I don't think it would reach the heights that Game of Thrones did on television either. I just don't think they're in the same league. That's my personal opinion. A lot of people love this series. I like it. I loved some of the books. Some of the books I didn't like as well. I would love to see an adaptation of it, but I don't think it would reach the heights that Game of Thrones did, and I definitely don't think it's better than Game of Thrones. Okay, so we are moving on to the Gentleman Bastards series by Scott Lynch, and this article says The Gentleman Bastards is as dark as it is cunning. I have not read The Gentleman Bastards by Scott Lynch. I've heard mixed things. I don't know if it would be for me. I'll probably try it someday. For the longest time I've said I wasn't going to bother, but I might try it one of these days. I guess I shouldn't ever say never, right? So I haven't read it. I can't say either way, but I really don't think I would like it as well as Game of Thrones, and it's really hard to capture that kind of magic in a bottle the second time around. And that's the truth with any of these that they are mentioning in this article. I don't think it's there, but maybe it is. And I know a lot of people are huge fans of that series, so I think it would be cool to see an adaptation of it and see what it's like. All right, moving on. Patrick Rothfuss's The Kingkiller Chronicle would blow Game of Thrones fans away. Yes and no. I love The Kingkiller Chronicle. I'm a huge fan. And I know there's fans out there that constantly bemoan the fact that he's almost just as bad as George R. R. Martin when it comes to finishing the series. And there's reasons for that. Good reasons, I feel like. So I get it. It's unfinished, and that's okay. I love the series. And I do think it would make a great adaptation. I would love to see Kavoth on screen. I would love to see Ari on screen. I would love to see that world on screen. I think that would be so awesome. And while I love that series so much, I don't think it's better than Game of Thrones. And I really don't know if an adaptation of it would be better than Game of Thrones was either. It's a hard series to adapt, I think. Not to say Game of Thrones wasn't. It was. Especially without completed source material. So I think I would say if we get the final book in the trilogy for this one, yes, let's get an adaptation of it. I still don't know if it would reach the same level as Game of Thrones. I love the series a lot, but I love A Song of Ice and Fire way more. So I'm anxious to see what they would do with it on screen, though. There was an adaptation planned for it way back in the day with Lin-Manuel Miranda attached, and I think he was going to make a musical of it. I don't like that idea. I mean, yes, Kavotha's a musician, but I don't think a musical adaptation would be. I like Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I think that's stretching it a bit. All right, so we're moving on here to the final one on this list, and that is Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons has a whole host of novels it could adapt successfully. And that is very true. You've got the Dragonlance novels, you've got the Forgotten Realms series, neither of which I have read yet. Well, I attempted one book in the Forgotten Realms series, part of the Drizzt series. I tried Homeland. It wasn't for me. But I haven't read any of the Dragonlance books or anything like that. So I can't really say for sure. But I do think they would probably make really great adaptations. And there is so much material, so much lore that they could explore there. I definitely think they should start with the Weiss and Hickman books in the Dragonlance series. Start right from the very beginning. But who am I to say? I haven't read those books yet. Would it be better than Game of Thrones on television? I doubt it. I don't think it will be as good as A Song of Ice and Fire is for me. I really don't. I could be surprised. I could be blown away. But I'm really skeptical about that. But, I need to read the books. And I think it would be great to see an adaptation. Now, there have been movies made from the Dungeons and Dragons mythos. There have been several of them made. I don't think any of them are direct adaptations of the book, but I've heard they're fun. I have not seen some of the newer ones. I saw one way back in the day that was kind of weird. But that's okay, Fantasy movies can be weird. I'm game to see more explored from Dungeons and Dragons, from Dragonlance specifically, and Forgotten Realms as well. So, yeah, I'm hopeful that some of these books on this list will get adapted. I would love to see it. I would love to try them and see what I think of them. But I definitely think that the title of this article, being that these books are better than Game of Thrones and would blow the Game of Thrones adaptation out of the water, I don't think so. I think that's going to be very, very hard to do. So that's my take on this. Now, if you are curious, this article was put out by CBR, part of the MSN News conglomerate. And I'll put a link to the article in the description below if you want to check it out. You are more than welcome to do that. The whole article is worth reading, I think. So I'll put that in the description below so you can check it out. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of some of these adaptation ideas. Do you think they would take off? Do you think they would be better than Game of Thrones? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, make sure you read more books. I'll talk with you soon.